bleeding. Looking at bleeding in this short video. Recognition, also what could cause the bleeding, but most importantly, what steps are you going to take as a first aider to help that person? When we talk about bleeding, it's something larger than a plaster. You're going to need a first aid kit and you're going to have to use some bandages. But before you start getting bandages out, you need to make sure that you apply direct pressure to where the blood is coming out. Use anything, tea towel, you might wish to use your own hat or a jacket, anything you have at all to apply direct pressure. Now this is Edna's blood, and I like Edna, but what I don't want to do is get her blood all over me. So I'm going to ask the person to put their hand directly on top. Then I'm going to put my hand on top of hers for the simple reason. This is the one bit that most people miss out when it comes to blood loss. They forget to do direct pressure for 10 minutes before you go start getting a bandage out the first aid kit. The reason why it can take 10 minutes, inside our blood we've got clotting agent, and it can take this time for it to start to clot and to slow down the bleeding. If I was just to keep Edna with her hand on top, what she's going to start doing is this and keep looking. The problem is every time somebody does that, you're going back to time 0. I'm just going to put my hand on top just so that they can't move, in this case, the triangular bandage. You all right, Edna? That was a bit daft, wasn't it?
Yeah.
What did you do that?
Oh, the knife slipped it.
What do you mean? The knife slipped?
Yeah.
Again?
Again.
I think it might be a trip to Specsavers. After 10 minutes, and Edna's got the pressure on, somebody's brought me my first aid kit. Now I want to put my gloves on. Why? Because it's blood we're dealing with. Now, if this was my partner or my child, then it really wouldn't bother me. But just for hygiene and for your protection, we do strongly advise you to put gloves on. In your workplace, you will have a first aid kit and they will have gloves inside, so pop them on. After 10 minutes of that direct pressure, we are now able to get the bandage on, making sure that the person feels all right, they don't feel sick. Just comfort them and say, oh, what a brave girl you are. When you open up your bandage, you will notice that the pad, the gauze pad, is already included. This is the pad where we're going to put directly on top of the injury. Right, Edna, you can take that off now. We're done 10 minutes. Yep, just take it off. You're absolutely fine. Grand. I'm going to pop that there. Right, I'm going to pop it on and I want you to hold this bit. This is the bit we're going to use for tying it off. Now, when you put a bandage on, it's really important that you go above the pad, like I'm doing, and work your way down and go below the pad. Just keep your hand like that for me. That's great. Now, you want it to be secure so it doesn't fall off, but what you don't want to do is pull it so tight that you're going to shut off her circulation. And when you get to the end, now Edna's got slender wrists, so quite a lot of bandage here. It doesn't matter if you tie it in a knot or if you tie it in a bow, because we're going to have to get further medical treatment for this. And as soon as we get her, either to the doctor's surgery or A&E, they're just going to cut it off. The bandage, not your hand, okay? When you tie it off, ideally go directly on top. It adds in that extra little bit of pressure. So we've now got the bleeding controlled, but I need to check to make sure that I haven't done the bandage too tight. And this is how we do it. And you can follow on at home as well. If you squeeze your thumb and you want to squeeze it firmly for 5 seconds, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And when you let go, 1, 2, it should come back to its normal color. If it doesn't, then the bandage is too tight. You'll need to loosen it off and apply another one. So that's with a basic limb bandage. Limb meaning our legs and our arms. But what is the most common injury that we cause to ourselves with bleeding? It's our hands. Why? Because these are our tools. People have you ever heard of avocado hand? Google it. Wait till you see it. People hold an avocado, they get a very strong, sharp knife, and they go to cut it, and it slips and cuts the hand. Bread buns, cutting them ready to make hamburgers. Opening things like Stanley blades, cutting our hands, or just general tools. This is how we're going to deal with a bleed to our hands. Once again, you must ensure that in a real life situation, get something for them to hold on to. That is direct pressure. Only after 10 minutes are you now going to introduce the bandage. You okay, Edna? Yeah? What did you do this time?
Oh, in the garden.
You out in the garden? Yeah. You are clumsy, aren't you? So, inside our first aid kit, you will have different size bandages. You will have medium and large. You may have other sizes as well, but today I'm using a medium-sized bandage. After 10 minutes, again, open up the bandage, and this is the gauze pad. Right, Edna, that's 10 minutes. Let's take that off. You're absolutely fine. Take your hand away for me. Pop the gauze into the hand and close your hand for me nice and tightly as you can. And hold that. I'm going to use that to tie off. Then we're going to make sure that we strap all of the fingers in. This is what we call the boxing glove bandage. Because if the person is able to open their hand, they're just going to break the circulation again and it's going to continue to bleed. Okay, you okay, Edna? Yeah, nearly done. I'm just going to tie it off. Again, when we tie off, it doesn't matter if it's a knot, it doesn't matter if it's in a bow. And I've kept the thumb out. Why have I kept a thumb out, I hear you ask? So she can get a lift home. That's not the real reason. I'm going to squeeze it again, up to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let go, and it should come back to its normal colour by the count of 2. If it does so, it's absolutely okay. If it stays white, it's too tight. You need to loosen it off. Let's have a look at the final bandage that I'm going to show you today. Is when we cut our head. It could hit it off a door or a cupboard or, I don't know, what else could you hit your head off? Concrete. So if there's bleeding there, again, we need to get direct pressure on for 10 minutes. Same rule applies. So get anything that you have to hand and pop it directly on. Edna, can you hold that for me, please? Good. The reason why I'm doing this is to ensure that the blood has clotted. It can take 10 minutes. I know they might feel daft sitting for 10 minutes, but you have to do it. After 10 minutes, you want to get a bandage on. I'm just going to take that off, Edna, okay? Right, oh, that's good. It's slowed down a lot. Here is another thing that's really handy to have inside your first aid kit, a hairband. Do you know why? Women, hair, bandages do not mix. So I'm just going to grab the back of the hair just to tie it out of the way. And that gives me an anchor for the bandage. You want to think about putting one of them inside your first aid kit, would you? Once you've got the bandage, this time, opening it up once again to the gauze pad. But what I don't want to do is put this on for 2 reasons. 1, she can't see where she's going, and 2, the blood will go into her eyes. So you fold it over, okay? Now, Edna, I want you to put your hand on top of the pad. Perfect. Now keep it there. I'm going to go around the head, underneath the hairband as an anchor. Take your hand away from me, Edna. Take it away. That's grand. Put your hand back on. There we are. And I'm just going to keep going around and around and around. So as you can see, it doesn't matter where the injury is. It's always 10 minutes direct pressure before you put on the bandage. And when you get to the end, just tie it off. There we are. A couple of things to mention though. You're okay, Edna, you can take your hand away now. A couple of things to be mindful of though. When it's blood loss, we do not want to wash it. Because if we start washing it and cleaning it, it's just going to keep bleeding and bleeding and bleeding and bleeding and bleeding. Blood loss needs to be stopped straight away. We're going to get further medical help for any blood loss. And when we get them to either the GP or accident and emergency, they will clean it thoroughly. They will then take the next steps of what's required, whether it's gluing, stitches, steri-strips. That's the next stage. I'm Sarah, owner and trainer of First Aid at Work, Aberdeen and Aberdeenshire, making training fun, engaging, but most importantly, memorable.